In light of recent events, we decided not to post this episode, which was recorded a little under a month ago with our excellent guest, Richard Newby. But as we begin posting episodes again, we just wanted to make a statement that the Waffle Press supports Black Lives Matter, defunding the police, abolishing ICE, and Trans Lives Matter. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the show. And if you don't support any of those things, you can get fucked. Bye. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Waffle Press Hangouts. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Gina Versa.
Hey, how you doing? Good to hear from you again.
Yeah, good to hear from you too. Didn't we talk about The Punisher like a couple days ago?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that's going to be released soon.
Yeah, that's a Marvel superhero. So naturally, we have to talk about DC superheroes this week. And with us to help us to go down that rabbit hole is Richard Newby, THR, audiences everywhere, one of the best people on Twitter, excellent follow. Richard, how are you, my friend? Welcome back.
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's always a pleasure. What have you been up to since we last spoke? You are our first guest in 2020, and now you are here with us again in a vastly different world.
Yeah, well, I have not been going to the movie theater, obviously. Watching a lot of movies at home. I'm currently working my way through the Star Trek films. I'd seen the J.J. Abrams ones were my introduction to the films, and I watched the original series after the first Abrams ones, but I had never actually, other than Wrath of Khan, I'd never actually watched the series, and I haven't seen any of Next Generation, so I have 2 more of the Kirk Enterprise, and then I'm going to watch like a few of the Next Generation Essentials, and then do those films after that.
I'm so excited for you. And then a quick plug for myself, I guess. Talk Film Society runner Marcelo Pico has invited me to do a Star Trek show with him and our buddy Mike Schindler. So we're doing that later. Well, we're doing it now, but that'll be released later this year, I believe. We might hit the anniversary. We might not. But
nice.
I'm very interested in your take on Star Trek V because I'm finding that one to be a much more divisive film than I remembered it being. But that's I guess, a whole other conversation here. Gene, what else are you watching, my friend?
Right now, I'm just watching Devs by Alex Garland. Halfway through, so just trying to power through. I wish that guy would make more movies, but I'm enjoying his TV show, so that's cool. It makes me feel smarter watching it. And in regards of TV, just Harley Quinn, DC animated show, which is really fun, really funny. I would recommend that to everyone since we were talking about DC stuff. I'm not sure if you guys watch it.
Yeah, I've been watching I'm on the first season still, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it gets better. It gets better. Yeah, it's just really uses all the mythos, so I'd recommend that. And then yeah, just those 2 shows, and yeah, just like random things like Robotech, just trying to get into to pass the time. Yeah, I saw The Lovebirds. That was pretty funny in terms of movies. It's kind of nothing else to watch.
I like those actors, so I'll check it out. And it's on Netflix, and I have Netflix. The last thing before the central discussion is I have been rewatching Community, which is excellent, and I would recommend to everyone. And we've also got a Birds of Prey commentary up on the Patreon, so check that out. At the time of you're listening to this, you will also be able to listen to that on the Patreon as well. And that's a fantastic film, and maybe my favorite of the DCEU. I think maybe the most underrated superhero movie of many, many years. But the DCEU tends to be a little controversial on the internet, and
a little.
Yeah, and I'm not proud of it, but I definitely contributed to that discourse in the past as well. We like what we like, we dislike what we dislike, and the mythical Snyder Cut, after many years of further discourse, is finally greenlit. It will appear on HBO Max in 2021. Richard, you have been tracking this longer than maybe any of us on this podcast, and I think are a bigger flag waver of the Zack Snyder Superman trilogy than us as well. I'm more pro BVS now than I was a couple years ago. Gene, not so much. Richard, I'm very curious about your thoughts on the revelation that the Snyder Cut is actually happening now, and your history with these films.
I remember seeing Man of Steel opening night, and I was just this was pre-Twitter, so I just like remember being like so hyped about it after leaving the theater, and I saw it again that weekend. And it's funny because like in these pre like Twitter days, I had no idea that it was such a controversial movie. Like I thought it was like amazing, and like everybody that I saw it with thought it was amazing. And so I was just like really excited to see where Zack Snyder was going to go with it. Like I liked all of his previous films before, Watchmen in particular. So I was just like really excited to see what he was going to do with these DC characters. Um, and then so I joined Twitter in the intermediate between Man of Steel and BVS. So then I got wind of all the controversies surrounding it. But I've always been a big fan of his work, especially in terms of his thoughts on how these characters are like mythological figures. And I think that his voice, I just think that it brings something different to superhero films, and especially like with these characters. Like I know that some of the choices that he makes are controversial, but I think that especially in terms of Batman and Superman, I think that they work because we've had previous iterations of these characters. Like we've had really good Batman films and really good Superman films before this. So I think like his ability to deconstruct some of the aspects of the character, or even like go back to some of the comic book aspects that have kind of been forgotten or rewritten and shifted around in continuity, has been really interesting. So I've always been a big fan of like what he was planning. So it was a massive bummer, when he had to leave the project, and then how Warner Bros. Handled that, which I think that the product. I mean, there are things that I enjoy about that theatrical cut in terms of the performances, but it's really it's a Frankenstein movie that's a mess, and I don't blame like any particular filmmaker. Like I know that some people think that it's Joss Whedon's fault, but I don't really think that it's his fault either. I think it's a lot of studio execs, and I think that if Whedon had made a Justice League film from scratch, it would have been completely different. But I'm really excited to see Snyder continue what he started and really continue those themes, whether this is the conclusion of a trilogy or whether there's anything else planned afterwards. I think it's a really big deal. One that I wasn't expecting. I always figured that the Snyder Cut would eventually be released, but I thought it would be kind of like the Donner Cut and happen like decades afterwards. So I'm really excited that it's happening when everyone's still really excited about it, and the actors are still in these roles, and there's still movies happening around them. So I think it's a major shift, I think, in terms of what Warner Bros. is doing with their universe.
Yeah, I'm definitely more on your wavelength with this, especially in regards to like, I've been harsh on the Justice League film that we've all seen, and I think it's because even though I'm still not a Man of Steel guy. I got to be honest. I like BVS, but I'm totally okay with the swings Snyder takes with the characters. It really is just like I don't vibe with some of his execution sometimes. Like I think I like where he's headed or where his head's at. Just sometimes it swings out of the park, and sometimes I'm like, oh look, a home run, and like I'd rather have that than something that does feel a little more packaged and sent out, and it's like, don't look, Superman's smiling now. You guys wanted that, right? It's like I don't really care about anything happening though. So like whatever, And thank you for also shouting out that like it's no one person's fault. It's just a series of decisions. No one sets out to make a movie that people are going to hate. And I agree that Whedon probably would have made a better film on his own. And this might be controversial. I actually would like to see them team up again. Snyder and Whedon, but like of their own volition, you know, just like, oh, have Whedon write something and have Snyder direct it. I think that would be like insane in like a really fun way. But
They
Gene,
probably don't like each other.
no, I mean people forget Snyder like didn't he like handpick Whedon to finish it?
I don't know.
Am I misremembering that, or am I?
That was a line that WB said that Snyder was like down with Whedon taking over, but apparently he didn't have any choice in it.
Oh, okay.
Seems like a Kevin Tsujihara.
Oh yeah, everyone's favorite. No further comments on that. But Gene, what are your thoughts on the Snyder Cut happening? As someone who did like Man of Steel and is kind of progressively liked less of that.
No, I mean I still like Man of Steel. I'd probably defend that movie like 90% of the way. But yeah, I think it's pretty decent. I just don't care for the ending. I don't know. I'm kind of go easy on Justice League. I find myself. I don't really like particularly dislike the cut as it came in. I just was kind of, I don't know, a little like DCEU out at that point. When it came out, didn't really have any strong feelings. The cut coming out right now, I guess that's kind of, I guess it's kind of interesting. I'm not really particularly like hyped about it. I guess it's interesting to see. I guess just kind of being neutral about it. Just what was like myth and then what was actually fact at this point, since you have like Kevin Smith saying all this. There was like Green Lantern and things like that, which I guess there was in that flashback, but not like Hal Jordan. So I don't know. I guess it's cool to just see like what was just real at this point. Become less sensationalized.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm really down with too. I think something we're all taking for granted, whether or not people are or are not excited for this, is that we don't know what it entails. And this is Zack Snyder's been like leaking like storyboards and concept art and images and whatever, but like we genuinely don't know what's going to happen in this movie, and that's like a really exciting prospect to me, because like so often I'm not someone who like does complain about trailers all the time, but on occasion you get a trailer and it's like it did kind of show everything, and you can still enjoy the film apart from that. Like Aquaman, I was like, yeah, you can kind of see the structure of the movie in the trailer, but I love Aquaman. Who cares, But I don't know. That's just kind of cool. You're going into a movie blind that's already been completed, and it's going to have two separate versions now. For me, I got the Alien 3 effect from this, where it's like, here's a theatrical cut of a film that I do not particularly care for. And then now I get to watch the assembly cut of it, which I think Alien 3 is still my favorite of the Alien sequels in its assembly cut form. And so, I don't know, I think this could be something really special, and I don't think anyone should take it for granted for what a weird, fun time we're living in. Obviously, the world's in a not great place. I'm talking about silver linings here, though. So let's...
I was going to ask if there wasn't a pandemic, do you think it would have been greenlit as quickly?
Not as quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a weird question, but...
No, I mean, I don't think it would have been as quickly. And Richard, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, but like... my theory that I was kind of teasing Gene before we started recording, that my theory is that they decided to greenlight this because it's mostly just like VFX stuff that I assume needs to be done. Again, this is just a theory. And that the reshoots that are supposed to happen are not going to be like crazy expensive. So it's easier to fund something like this that's basically almost already finished versus an entirely new production that'll be more than $100 million or something. I don't know. Am I crazy here, guys?
No, I think that because I mean, in the article that came out after he announced it, was saying that he was contacted about it in November after the release of the Snyder Cut trended on Twitter. So I do think that they had plans for it. For one, I think that the fact that it's happening so soon, I do think has a lot to do with that it's VFX work, and a lot of VFX workers are like in need of work right now because no other production's happening. and he can bring the cast back to do ADR, which apparently he's doing. And I think that any of the reshoots or additional scenes, I think that those are going to be mostly visual effects, which I mean kind of makes sense given his background and things like 300. I don't think that he has to actually be on location for a lot of it, especially if he's like adding in elements of Apocalypse and some New Gods backstory. I think a lot of that could be handled through visual effects.
Yeah, I think that too. And credit to Snyder. I think he's a really great VFX director. Something that I don't think. No, I'm a Whedon fan, but I don't think he's as strong a director as he is writer, especially visually. And Snyder could just make anything like visually stunning, And I think I'm really excited to see what his final film will look like after all this time. And I remember the talk being that it was going to be like a 2-part film. So I'm a little curious about, is it going to be a little rewritten as well? Or is he going to be able to come back and like finish his entire story? I haven't heard a lot of talk about this one. Richard, what do you think about that? Do you think he's going to come back just for this one, like last go round, or is he teeing up a possible part 2?
He said, like in the Man of Steel commentary, that he was gonna conclude the trilogy with this one, but I can't imagine if it does as well as I feel like WB is hoping, and all the Twitter noise, if that turns into views, I can't imagine that they would say no to him doing more eventually. I don't know if it'll be anytime soon, but I definitely think that he's gonna leave something open to continue. And Joe Magliano had talked about, he said, wait until you guys see the original post-credit scene. So unless that's going to be worked back into the body of the movie instead of a post-credit scene, it definitely seems like there could be something, that leads to something else. I think that it'll have a thematic conclusion in case, it doesn't work out, and it'll leave people satisfied. But I also think that the door will be left open for further adventures if he wanted to go in that direction.
That's what I'm really hoping for. Gene, what do you think? Is this his last go round?
I mean, I don't know. I think I can't see him directing another DC movie, because I don't know. It seemed like that would be a step down for him if he was kind of like the, I don't know. He's sort of like the Kevin Feige, start shaping the universe, but it's not really a universe anymore. I don't know. I really can't see him going back to direct another DC movie, to be honest.
All right. There are no rules anymore. If 2020 has taught us anything, is that the rules don't matter. Everything we once knew is completely out the window. And I was rewatching Community earlier in this podcast. Community changed showrunners in between seasons and then brought back the original showrunner when they saw things weren't working out. So even though the rules are out the window, there is also historical precedents for crazier things to have happened. So
right, no, of course. I mean, I guess it's just the same logic that like James Gunn won't be back again at Marvel after finishing Guardians 3. Just said what he wanted to do and just gets out of there.
And then he too was also let go after Guardians 2 and then brought back. Different circumstances, of course, but still he came back and no one thought that would happen. So I don't know. It's a very exciting time.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I just think it's kind of just unlikely.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from completely, and any one of us could be right now, and that's a really exciting possibility. But also on this discussion, I wanted to bring up the idea of extended cuts and director's cuts. Obviously, this is kind of the biggest extended director's cut. In maybe, at least in terms of expense, maybe the biggest one in cinematic history. I think the other big recent one was The Other Side of the Wind, which is my favorite film of the last decade. Everyone go watch that on Netflix. It's incredible. But we asked the Twitter people what their favorite extended and director cuts are. So Richard, Gene, I would like for both of you to think on your favorite extended and director's cut so we can kind of shoot the shit about those. But really quick, from at Twitter user Demi Joey, funny enough, Zack Snyder's director's cut of Sucker Punch is their favorite. And our boy Andrew J. Salazar from Discussing Film, check him out, thinks the longer individual cuts of Death Proof and Planet Terror are worth mentioning, and I would completely agree with that. Richard, what are some of your favorite extended or director's cuts?
My favorite is Blade Runner, which also happens to be my favorite movie. I saw the director's cut first, and then I saw the final cut. But I've seen every version now, and it's an amazing process to go from like the work print from the theatrical, the directors, and now the final cut. It's really interesting. The final cut is definitely my favorite. There are a few like different lines in the director's cut that I prefer, but that and I really like the ultimate cut of Watchmen that has the Curse of Black Sails animated portion in it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's like structured more like the graphic novel, and that one is it's probably my other favorite after Blade Runner. It's a whole different experience. I think it's like an extra hour and a half longer than the theatrical.
Yeah, because there was the animated movie, and then they just like spliced in there too.
I really like James Cameron's Avatar extended cut. I'm a big Avatar fan, which I know is another controversial movie, but I really like what he did with it. I just think it's a very like pure kind of classic science fiction story heightened by like great special effects, and the extended cut just gives him more of an opportunity to play with some of those special effects in the world that he created. So I'm down to see more of whatever James Cameron does. So
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's like the only movie filming in the entire world right now. So people, trying to dunk on that movie like it's not going to be a success, but I think that's going to be really successful when this is all said and done.
Yeah, and you know what? It's just I'm also pro Avatar now. I'm pro BVS. I'm pro Avatar. I'm pro Snyder Cut. The last couple of years have been very odd for Diego, but I am also pro Avatar. And I don't know if this is the hot take, but I don't think I'm a fan of James Cameron's other director's cuts. I think with Avatar, it actually does do a great job of like fleshing out just a little bit more of characters and relationships, just enough to be like, oh, this kind of teeters over into further greatness, and yeah, I cannot wait for those sequels. Those don't underestimate James Cameron. A couple more recommendations. At Good Hunter Abby Jean Phelps, good friend of the show, said the extended cut of The New World, the final cut of Blade Runner, and the reconstructed cut of Touch of Evil, which I have also seen and is incredible. And Orson Welles is a maniac, and I miss him every day. Gene, what other extended cuts, director's cuts are you a fan of?
Yeah, I had two favorites. One was Donnie Darko, the director's cut. I think
interesting.
Yeah, I think it really explains a lot of stuff. It kind of reminds me of Rise of Skywalker, where everything's like explained off screen, like in a book or in the script or on a website. In the director's cut, they actually put all that information there, which they couldn't have in the with the budget that they had. So it's like stuff with like animated pages, things like that, kind of directly explaining all the metaphysical time travel stuff, which kind of thinking about it, I remember seeing the original cut of it like back in high school, because I got the director's cut later, maybe a few months after, and I kind of got it, but like not really, like vaguely, like I kind of understand what they're saying, and like I just wonder what a general audience thought of that back in the day. I mean, it had a cult following, but there's just like key information that's just like not explained, that's pretty crucial to the plot, like how he gets his powers, things like that. But if you watch the movie, it's just happening. So kind of appreciating that for explaining stuff.
I haven't seen that director's cut, but it sounds like it's the opposite problem of the Blade Runner theatrical cut. Where it's like the theatrical cut of Blade Runner explains everything. It's like you get it, you got it when they cut to the scene, and now we're listening to Harrison Ford like just hate his life. Or the
well, I'm grateful for the those cuts of Blade Runner because it's just I hate the voiceover. Like I really just don't care for it. And that was like the first cut I saw, and it's fine, but now I just don't like that voiceover because he's just saying just like really oblique stuff, like just really like out. I don't know. He's just like kind of like, he doesn't want to be there. Harrison Ford recording the lines, and the lines are just like they're trying so hard to be like out of a detective book, like a noir story. Like it's like they're really like putting like all that noir speak in there, which
yeah. And like it just doesn't fit because no one cares. It's just such an obvious studio note, and that's too bad because like we have the final cut and we see like its full vision completed, and it's like the best movie ever. So,
and my second one was the Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut.
Yeah.
Even though like some of that is a little rough, like they literally have like test footage that they filmed with like the cast, right? It's like the scene where Lois shoots Superman, and it's like, oh, she had a blank this whole time. Like that looks a little rough, but I don't know. I'm just glad the tone of that movie with that cut is like more. I don't want to say serious because it's still lighthearted, but it takes out like all the weird goofiness out of there. Like, if you guys remember that scene with the guy, he's on the phone, like in the telephone, and then Zod does like his super breath, or someone does a super breath, and he's still on it. He's still talking as he's like laughing. It's so dumb. Like I forgot the name of those producers of the movie that like had all that weird humor in there, but just doesn't work in the original cut. And I really like Brando as a Jor-El. Seeing him again was, pretty cool to see him in the film. And I think actually, I don't know. I think him doing the time travel bit, spinning the world backwards, I think that works better. I think in Superman 2 than Superman 1.
Really interesting. Yeah. I definitely disagree there, but that's okay. Yes, yeah. I like Superman 2. This is not a Superman 2 dig at all.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, but the time travel bit that was supposed to be in Superman 2, not Superman 1. Is from what I read.
Oh, I don't know actually.
I don't know, Richard, can you back me up?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Oh, wow. Oh, you just like cracked open a whole new world for me, Gene. I gotta go looking for this after.
Let's I don't want to say that as completely accurate, but let's we could look into that after, but that's what I believe.
Okay, yeah, I mean that makes it more interesting because it's just so pivotal to Superman 1 for me that I guess this is a quick discussion then too, like a sidebar before we start wrapping up. I think it's also important to remember while it's fun to talk about director's cuts and extended cuts and like seeing through a complete vision that movies are ultimately the product of a group of people, not a singular person. You could all try to craft something that was started from a singular person's idea or something, right? But, at the end of the day, it is a bunch of people coming together to make something entertaining or have something to say in a group. And so there's also a much more in-depth video on this from H. Bomber Guy, who I'm a big fan of. And check out Scanline. I think it's called like The Myth of Director's Cut or something like that. It's a great video. It's like 45 minutes long, and it's all about that. But just something to remember. As fun as this is to talk about, because just because it's one person's opinion does not mean it's correct. And directors are also just human beings. So, I guess one of my favorites is well known and well documented, Alien 3, which David Fincher will never watch again, and I can't blame him because that must have been an awful, awful experience to live through. But I think the movie came together in spite of all the trials and awful tribulations he had to go through. He's such a good filmmaker that a movie he disowned is like remarkable from top to bottom, at least in terms of like directing and lighting and performances and just I mean I don't think anyone would say it's a boring looking movie, at least, and I think that goes a long way. At Prince M5420, Miles A. Harris, friend of the show, Alien 3, The A-Team, BVS, Watchmen, Miami Vice, The Counselor Gang, Pineapple Express, The Other Guys, Kingdom of Heaven, and The Hateful Eight. I think Ridley Scott's like the king of director's cuts. Am I wrong here?
Yeah, he has he has a bunch. I just watched Kingdom of Heaven this year for the first time, so I've only seen the extended cut, which I'm happy about because I looked up what the theatrical one was, and the stuff that they cut out is just like such like crucial information that I'm just like not even sure how that happened. But yeah, I feel like Ridley Scott constantly has to battle for different cuts.
Yeah, and that's too bad. And I guess I was looking up some interviews with him and other filmmakers that have had to go through this in preparation for this, and he's saying that like he constantly is just like saying yes to like whatever the studios want while trying to like weasel his own way through, right? And so when he goes back for reshoots, like in an interview, I'll try to find it and link it down below, but like he was saying like, you know, I don't always tell them like what I'm going back to reshoot. Like I'm saying like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna go shoot, and then you know, I'll carve out like about half the day and shoot something else, and maybe they'll catch it in the editing, maybe not. But you know, he's basically like a renegade filmmaker, and he's like 82 years old. I love him so much. I would also recommend Kingdom of Heaven to everyone, the extended cut, because I think that's a great film, and that kind of should have been his next Gladiator hit. Unfortunately, that did not go that way. And I guess the last one I'll mention here, Stefano says Black Hat, Kingdom of Heaven, Batman vs. Superman, the French release of Le Transporteur, which I believe are the Transporter, Touch of Evil, Almost Famous, and The Wild Bunch. The Wild Bunch is also a very popular one. Almost Famous, I have not seen the director's cut, but check out a retrospective on that film because that's a great film regardless. And Black Hat, is the director's cut is only available through film Twitter people that have taken the time to upload it to share with other film Twitter people. So no further comment on that. But yeah, there's a lot of great extended and director's cuts out there. I'll always do a little more research and see the history behind the films. You'll get a lot of spare reading to do in these times of quarantine. And you could check out other great writing from people like Richard Newby, who I'm very thankful again for joining us on this episode. I know we got to let you go a little early today. Again, thank you so much. It's always good to talk to you, my friend. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Richard L. Newby. And then you can find my work on The Hollywood Reporter. I write for the Heat Vision section. And yeah, I was really glad to talk to you guys. I always love being on the show. You guys always have really interesting, insightful things to say. And especially, I think, you know, these discussions can become so heated sometimes on Twitter that podcasts like yours, you know, really remind people that we're all just film lovers and, you know, we like stories and talking about them with each other. And I think that's the key.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you. That was very nice.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
And of course, I'll always keep up with your stuff. And of course, you will also be the first person we bring on to talk about the Snyder Cut once it's eventually released next year. Yeah, there's no other person I'd rather talk about it with.
Yeah, looking forward to next year. Just for
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Also that, yeah. Gene, my friend, thank you so much again. And I didn't even mention you let me check out Samurai Jack, which is I finally saw the final season. It's really good.
You're welcome.
No director's cut there, but thank you for recommending that to me.
Had to keep bugging him to see it.
Yeah, but you know what? I got time now, so whatever. Gene, where can the people find you?
You could find me on Twitter and Instagram, Gene9892.
And you could follow me at the Twitter at the Diego Crespo. Check out the Waffle Press on Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Patreon, where you can listen to this, early commentaries, early episodes of Happy Amblin'. Check out everything else we got going on over there. Fun mashups, fun everything, hopefully. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional.